Hey guys, Ivy here, and I'm bringing you my very first ever plan with me for my February 2020 setup. I decided I wanted to group the year into quarters, and I have a theme cluster for each quarter. In January, the theming was tarot, but because I was traveling, I've done more of a travel journal than a traditional bullet style for that month. But moving on for February, I am back to my usual bullet journaling, and the theme for this month is crystals and gems. Now, I have sketched out the layout prior to because I find when I go in cold, I tend to get the proportions and layout of things all wrong and end up hating it. So I always put pencil to paper first. Also, whenever I start a new theme, I fish through my markers, and you can see there I have swatches on a little bit of scrap paper so I know what colors I have to choose from. So this month I'm mainly sticking to light pinks and lilac tones. I really like that crystals are basically geometric shapes, as I'm always looking for details that don't actually rely on drawing skills, as I'm not really much of a gifted drawer. So on this left side, I've popped a little quotation that I found on Pinterest that says, "Nothing can dim the light that shines from within." And I'm using a mix of faux calligraphy and small capital letters, and I really thought this quotation was fitting as crystals refract light out to appear all sparkly. All the black lining you can see is being done with a Zebra Sarasa 0.4mm gel pen, which is one of my hands down favorites. So I'm not actually a big crystal person. I love them from an aesthetic point of view, and I think the meanings behind crystals is interesting, but it seems like a real rabbit hole you can fall down, and crystals can be really expensive to collect. Not that I don't collect enough things as it is, like teacups. I love collecting teaware. I recently got the set you can see in the corner from T2, a tea store in Australia. And at the moment I'm drinking DTWG tea, which is my favourite tea. And I've just brewed a pot of their Haute Couture tea, which is a black tea with rose and caramel flavours, and it is delicious. So at the bottom I'm just popping 3 extra crystals, and wherever I can I use the marker first and then line with the black pen second so I don't risk smudging the black ink. And here I'm drawing a little pink crystal that's going to be hanging from the top border, and inside the crystal I've just drawn a little light bulb coil as if the crystal is a light bulb that's shining brightly. Going back to the bottom, I'm just popping some star constellations between the crystals, which will keep the 3-month theme cluster cohesive. And I'm using one of my favourite gold pens, which is by Pentel, as it is probably the most glittery one I own. I'll pop a list of all the supplies I use below with links wherever possible. On the right side, I'm using a Pentel Sign brush pen to letter in February in a modern calligraphy style. And then using various Tombows to colour in the crystal shapes I've sketched out earlier. I put these lavender lilac tones at the top, which will transition into more pinky rose tones at the bottom, and I've left a little space on the bottom right to pen in a little February calendar. So on this next page, I'm going to pop in a big February calendar. I'm going to use this open grid for the calendar, which I really like instead of like drawing out all the lines, because this is super quick and easy. And at some of the junctions, I'm just popping in a little gem just to give it points of interest. But yeah, you can see that this takes no time at all to set up. So using a Pentel sign brush pen, I'm just going to letter February across the top, and along the side I'm going to letter "You're a Gem," which technically I am. Well, I'm a Gemini, and I've gone for a mix of lower and uppercase in the brush lettering. You can see at this point I realized my tea was probably getting cold, so I've had some of it. Doesn't really bother me to drink cold tea though. So I was a bit dumb here and I didn't realize my journal was out of the frame, but I'm just putting this really pretty washi tape, which has gold foil, crystals, planets and stars on watercolor swatches, and I've just taped it along the bottom and a little section at the top. And then I'm going to use my Tombow markers in lilac and a rosy pink color just to pop the dates on the calendar. Just making sure I don't get the dates wrong, which I've done plenty of times. Okay, next page. On the left will be a spending log, because I really need to be accountable for this month's purchases if I'm ever going to recover from all the holiday shopping. And on the right, I'm just going to use it as a brain dump page. I'm going to keep these pages super simple, and that'll allow me to decorate them during the month if there is leftover space, but I really want the space to just see how I go this month. The spending log has 3 columns, which I forgot to label here, but the first will be the date of the day I did the purchase. The second will be the item that I purchased, and the last column will be the price of my purchase. I'm just using that Pentel gold pen just to letter it in this small, narrow capital letters. I'm just picking a washi to put along the top, but I decided on this this tape that has gold geometric crystal-like shapes. So just taping that along the top there, and you can see my hair. I thought I'd been so good about keeping out of the frame. So next page is my first weekly spread, though I'm actually going to shove the first 9 days of February into it. I brush penned February in the, well, Feb in the upper left corner and popped a little calendar next to it. Next, I've coloured in little purple diamonds to pop the dates of the 9 days in, and I'm just going to put little grid markers to separate the days rather than drawing in the full lines. So I'm just going to put side borders along this central strip that I've left blank for the minute, but I do plan to decorate it later. Now I always put my habit tracker in the week because I found that I simply didn't flick back to a dedicated spread of habit trackers. So here I am going to be tracking exercise, skincare, vitamins, eating dinner at home rather than out and not spending. And this can change from week to week. So now I'm just putting in a little weather forecast strip along here because I really hate getting caught out without an umbrella, and we ended up having so much rain that week. Like, I know you've probably heard in Australia it's been bushfires, well now it's floods. So in each of the little diamond boxes I'm putting a little drawing of the weather, and then below it I'm putting the temperature that it's meant to be that day. And yeah, even though I tried to check where to put the grid marker on this side, I somehow still got it wrong. Okay, so now going to that middle strip, I've just popped a little amethyst sticker, and now I'm lettering the word amethyst with my marker tip of my Tombow. And I've just written down some details about amethyst use and meaning that I found on a crystal website. Oh, and I just noticed that I must have cut it from the footage, but on the bottom right, I've just got a little gratitude tracker where I can write a little something that I'm thankful for each day. And just popping in more of those crystal washi stickers. And at the bottom, I'm just writing a description for fluorite. To fill this upper right corner, I'm just using an amethyst sticker from a sheet I got from Japan, and that's the first week done. So second week, I've actually done this layout before in 2018 when I also had a crystal theme, and I really liked how functional it was, so I've decided to bring it back for 2020. So you can see I have these vertical boxes for each day with highlighted heading bars for the date, and I'm just drawing those out now with my ruler. Sometimes I freehand stuff, but if I'm having to draw particularly longer lines, I prefer to use a ruler. So on the bottom left here is this week's habit tracker, and in the center I have my daily gratitudes. On the opposite page I'll put a little calendar, and in between all of that I have drawn in these 4 larger geometric crystal shapes, which I'm going to shade with my Tombow markers and with the black gel liner pen, just to give them a bit more dimension. This week, notice I don't have a dedicated weather tracker. I plan to just pop the weather at the bottom of each vertical box later once I know the forecast. So this week I basically put in the same habits that I tracked last week, but I've also added flossing. With my daily gratitude, I really like using this lighter color just to highlight every alternate line. I think it's such a simple thing to do, but really adds a visual effect. And with this little last bit of space, I'm just going to pop in a little description of rose quartz. So I love that it's a really simple layout to do that affords me so much room for all the details that I need in a week, while still being pretty aesthetic. You can see here that I'm going over everything with my eraser, just getting rid of any noticeable pencil lines that are left. I'm just going to do that on all the pages, making sure when you erase around the gold pen that you don't get the gold glitter. And voila, my February 2020 crystal setup. Thanks for watching. See you next time.